The alien princess was supposed to die in the desert. The hunters who shot her down were certain of it. The warships in orbit were certain of it. Even she was certain of it. But they did not account for one exhausted human scientist with bad coffee and a stubborn heart. And that mistake would cost the galaxy everything. The Mojave Desert had teeth that night. Wind tore across the sand like it wanted to peel the skin from the world. Inside a lonely research station called Epsilon 7, Dr. Elias Mercer was arguing with a generator that refused to behave. He had once been offered a comfortable job in Geneva. Clean labs. Clean floors. Clean politics. Instead, he had chosen isolation and freedom. He studied adaptive ecosystems, plants that survived radiation, drought, and extremes that should kill them. Most people thought he was trying to terraform Mars. He wasn't. He was trying to understand survival. The storm monitor screamed a warning. Elias sighed and reached for his coat. Then he saw movement outside. At first he thought it was debris. The desert loved throwing trash across the horizon. But this shape moved against the wind. It stumbled. It fell. It crawled. And it left a glowing trail in the sand. Elias froze. His brain went through denial, logic, fear, and finally acceptance in 3 seconds. "That's not normal," he muttered. He grabbed a med kit and pushed into the storm. The wind punched him in the chest. Sand scraped his goggles. Lightning flashed in the distance, but there were no clouds above, only orbiting ships cloaked in silent darkness. He didn't know that yet. He followed the faint glow until he found her collapsed beside a broken rock formation. Her armor looked like shattered glass and liquid metal combined. Parts of it flickered as if unsure which reality to obey. The rest was burned black. The air around her shimmered with residual heat. She was not human. Her ears curved back in elegant arcs. Faint patterns of light moved under her skin like distant constellations. Blood, silver and luminous, stained the sand. Elias' breath stopped. He had prepared his entire life for first contact. This was not how he imagined it. He knelt beside her. Pulse. Weak. Fading. He hesitated for only 1 second. Then he lifted her. She was heavier than she looked. The armor resisted his grip, then softened as if allowing him to carry her. He dragged her through the storm, step by painful step. Above them, hidden ships scanned the desert. They detected her failing life signs. They detected no threat. Just one human. Irrelevant. Inside the station, Elias cleared his main lab table with one sweep of his arm. Equipment crashed to the floor. He laid her down gently. Up close, she looked impossibly precise. Every feature sculpted with intention. Not delicate. Not fragile. Controlled. Warrior precision. He cut away the ruined armor. It tried to resist. His tools sparked. He adjusted voltage on his thermal blade and adapted. Human tools were not elegant, but they were stubborn. Under the armor, her injuries were catastrophic. Plasma burns. Deep tissue damage. Strange energy wounds that seemed to distort the air itself. "This is above my pay grade," he whispered. But he started working anyway. He cleaned wounds with sterilizers designed for unknown microbes. He used synthetic grafts meant for lab accidents. He rerouted power from greenhouse systems to create a stable healing environment. Improvisation. Adaptation. Human specialties. She screamed once during the night. The sound vibrated the walls. Elias almost stepped back. But he didn't. "Stay with me," he said quietly. "You made it this far. Don't quit now." He didn't know why he said that. Maybe he was talking to himself too. Hours passed. The storm faded. Dawn painted the desert gold. Her breathing stabilized. Elias slumped into a chair, exhausted beyond thought. He stared at the being on his table. He had just committed an act that could end civilization. And he didn't regret it. She woke on the second day. Her eyes opened slowly. Not confused. Not afraid. Assessing. They were not a single color. They held depth like layered stars. She focused on him instantly. "Where am I?" she asked. Perfect English. Elias blinked. "Arizona." She frowned slightly. "That is not a military power center." "No," he agreed. "It's mostly sand and poor decisions." She tried to sit up. Pain hit her. She stopped but did not cry out. "You saved me," she said flatly. "Yes." "Why?" He paused. "Because it was right. Because you were dying. Because no one deserves to be alone in the dark." He chose the simplest answer. "You looked like you needed help." She studied him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She laughed softly. "You are either very brave," she said, "or profoundly foolish. Those overlap sometimes." She accepted that. "My name is Serelith," she said. "Daughter of the High Throne." Elias stared. "Like royalty?" "Yes." "Of where?" She looked toward the ceiling, toward orbit. "Of the fleet currently searching for my corpse." Silence filled the room. Elias processed that. "You're being hunted." "Yes." "By your own people." "Yes." "Is there a reason?" Her expression did not change. "I won." That was not an answer. But it was enough. Suddenly, alarms triggered on Elias monitors. High-frequency scans. Atmospheric disturbances. Something entering lower orbit. Serelith turned her head slightly. "They found me." Elias felt cold. "You said they thought you were dead." "They believed I would die." "That's different." "Yes." Outside, the sky rippled faintly. Orbital drop pods. Elias' brain shifted into survival mode. "How many?" "An execution unit," she replied calmly. 20. 20. They will level this area to ensure certainty." He paced once. Fast. Thinking. He had no weapons. No army. Just a greenhouse full of experimental extremophile organisms and a stubborn refusal to surrender. "Can you fight?" he asked. She attempted to move her arm. It trembled. "Not yet." He nodded once. "Good. Then it's my turn." She looked at him sharply. "You cannot defeat them." "Probably not," he agreed. "But humans are very annoying when underestimated." He moved quickly now. He activated irrigation systems, triggered growth accelerators, released stored atmospheric compounds. In the greenhouse, plants began to pulse brighter. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Cheating," he replied. The first drop pod struck the desert 300 meters away. The ground shook. Metal opened. Armored figures stepped out, sleek, silent, advanced. They scanned the station. Registered 2 life signs. Marked 1 for termination. They advanced. Inside, Elias activated a sequence he had designed for testing planetary stress adaptation. The greenhouse vents exploded outward. A wave of engineered pollen erupted into the desert air. The alien soldiers paused. Their suits filtered toxins. But this was not a toxin. It was alive. The pollen reacted to alien energy signatures, something Elias had accidentally discovered years ago when testing radiation absorption. The air shimmered. The soldiers' targeting systems began glitching. Visual feeds distorted. One soldier fired. The beam refracted in the pollen cloud and struck another unit. Confusion spread. Serelith watched with widening eyes. "This is primitive biology," she whispered. "Yes," Elias said. "But it's very motivated." More plants ruptured through the soil outside, accelerated by forced nutrient bursts. Thick vines hardened like cables, entangling armored legs. The soldiers adapted quickly. They cut through growth with plasma blades. But every cut released more spores. More interference. More chaos. Elias monitored patterns on his screen. "They rely on clean signals," he muttered. "Predictable environments." He rerouted power again. The station lights dimmed. The desert around them lit up. Bioluminescent organisms he had been cultivating for years now activated at full capacity. The entire battlefield became a glowing storm of organic interference. The alien commander recalculated. This was not strategic resistance. It was environmental warfare. Unexpected. Irrational. Human. One drop ship in orbit prepared a precision strike. Serelith sensed it. They will vaporize this location. Elias swallowed. He looked at her. Can you stand? She pushed herself upright slowly. Pain burned across her face. But something else burned brighter. Anger. You bought me time, she said quietly. Outside, the soldiers regrouped. Above, orbital cannons aligned. Inside a broken research station in the middle of nowhere, a human botanist and a hunted alien princess prepared to do something no empire expected. Fight back together. And the galaxy was about to learn a painful lesson. Humans do not surrender their guests. Not even to the stars. The orbital cannon fired. There was no sound at first. Only a thin line of white light descending from the sky like judgment. Elias saw it on his monitor half a second before impact. Down, he shouted. Serelith did not drop. She stepped forward. And the beam bent. It did not shatter. It did not explode. It curved, as if space itself had been gently twisted aside. The energy carved a trench across empty sand instead of vaporizing the station. Elias stared at her. You said you couldn't fight. I said not yet, she replied calmly. Her eyes were no longer soft with weakness. They burned now. The faint constellation patterns under her skin glowed brighter. But she was still unstable. Elias could see it in the tremor of her shoulders. Above them, the alien fleet recalculated again. The commander identified her. Not just a princess. A war leader. A battlefield tactician. The most decorated strategist in their empire. Serelith of the Ninth Spear. Officially declared dead 3 days ago. The order changed. Capture alive. The next wave did not come as soldiers. It came as silence. Every signal in the area died at once. Elias' screens went black. Power systems flickered. An electromagnetic suppression field dropped over the desert. Serelith's jaw tightened. They adapt quickly. Yeah, Elias said. We do too. He ran to the back of the station and pulled open a metal cabinet marked with faded yellow tape. Inside were devices he was never supposed to test outside simulation. Handmade signal disruptors. Analog systems. Old Earth tech. No AI. No wireless. No clean signals. He began flipping switches manually. The station lights returned, dim, uneven, but alive. Outside, the alien suppression field met something unexpected. Human stubbornness built on outdated engineering. Serelith watched him with something new in her expression. Curiosity. You build inefficient systems, she said. We build backups for when efficient systems fail. A low hum filled the air. The sand outside began vibrating. Elias froze. That's not mine. The ground cracked. From beneath the desert, sleek black pillars rose upward in perfect formation. Buried infrastructure. Hidden staging platforms. The execution unit had prepared this planet long ago. The desert was not empty. It was pre-measured, pre-claimed, pre-owned. Elias felt anger rise in his chest. You hid weapons on our planet. It is a minor world, Serelith said quietly. Strategically useful. Politically irrelevant. Not to me. The pillars opened. Drones poured out like a swarm of metal insects. Not soldiers. Harvesters. They were not here to fight. They were here to erase. The first drone sliced through one of Elias' greenhouse domes with surgical precision. Plants fell. Glass shattered. Years of research collapsed in seconds. Elias felt something shift inside him. Not fear. Not panic. Offense. You want the desert, he muttered. Fine. He sprinted to the central control hub and unlocked a system he had designed for climate stress testing. Serelith sensed his decision. That system is unstable. Yes. It may poison this entire ecosystem. Only temporarily. You cannot be certain. He looked at her. You think they're certain about what they're doing? She did not answer. He activated it. Deep underground reservoirs released engineered microbes into the soil. Organisms designed to terraform dead rock into living ground. They had one flaw. They consumed energy aggressively. Any energy. Alien drones ran on contained plasma cores. Within seconds, the microbes reacted. The sand beneath the swarm began to glow faintly. Drones dropped one by one as their power sources destabilized. Explosions rippled across the desert. The alien commander recognized the pattern too late. Primitive bioadaptive countermeasure, the commander hissed. Humans, an officer replied carefully. In the station, Serelith swayed slightly. You are turning your planet into a weapon. Elias shook his head. No. I'm reminding them it's alive. More drones fell. But the fleet escalated again. A larger vessel broke orbit. This one was not subtle. It descended visibly, tearing clouds apart as it entered atmosphere. Serelith's breathing slowed. That is a warship. How big? Large enough. Elias swallowed. The desert was winning small battles. But this was escalation beyond microbes and pollen. The warship hovered above the battlefield like a second sun. A beam of light descended, not destructive. Transport. From it stepped a single armored figure. Tall. Perfect. Radiating controlled violence. Serelith stiffened. Commander Virex. The figure removed his helmet. His face was elegant and cold. Sister, he said softly. Elias blinked. Sister. Serelith's voice hardened. You declared me dead. You failed, Virex replied. I won. You broke doctrine. I saved lives. You endangered supremacy. Their words were calm, but the air between them vibrated with history. Elias slowly positioned himself between them without realizing it. Virex noticed. A human, he said, mildly amused. You were saved by this. Serelith did not look away from him. Yes. Virex studied Elias like a curious insect. You shelter our most dangerous warrior, he said. Do you understand what she is? Elias considered that. She's someone who was hurt. Virex smiled faintly. She commands fleets. Still bleeds. She has ended civilizations. Still needed help. Silence. The desert wind moved between them. Virex's eyes narrowed slightly. You are insignificant. Elias shrugged. Probably. The warship above began charging. Not at the station. At the entire region. Scorched earth. If they could not capture her cleanly, they would erase the board. Serelith stepped forward, but Elias grabbed her wrist. You're still not stable. I can fight. And die. That is acceptable. He shook his head firmly. Not here. She looked at him sharply. You risk everything for a stranger. He met her gaze. No, he said quietly. For a guest. Something shifted in her expression. Something deeper than strategy. Virex raised his hand. The warship intensified its charge. Elias made one final decision. He opened a channel on an old emergency frequency. One that had not been used in years. One connected to something most humans forgot existed. A global scientific network. Thousands of small, independent stations like his. He transmitted one message. Unknown hostile fleet in Earth orbit. Defensive assistance requested. He did not expect an answer. But humans were very good at surprising people. Around the world, small screens flickered to life. Antarctica. Sahara. Amazon basin. Deep-sea platforms. Lunar Research Base. A simple message appeared. Acknowledged. Within minutes, power grids shifted subtly. Civilian satellites reoriented. Weather systems were nudged. Magnetic fields were adjusted. Not military action. Coordination. The warship's targeting systems began to experience anomalies. Minor at first. Then compounding. Solar interference. Gravitational lensing. Atmospheric refraction spikes. Nothing illegal. Nothing aggressive. Just millions of small environmental adjustments stacking together. Humanity was not attacking. It was rearranging the board. Virex looked upward. What is this? Elias smiled slightly. We collaborate. The warship's beam destabilized. Energy dispersed harmlessly into upper atmosphere. Across the planet, scientists who had never fired a weapon in their lives calmly altered equations. Tiny changes. Massive effect. Serelith watched the sky flicker. You united them? I asked. Virex's composure cracked for the first time. You expose your entire species for one life. Elias answered without hesitation. She's under my roof. The desert glowed brighter. The fleet hesitated. For the first time, they saw it clearly. Humanity was not technologically superior. Not physically superior. But dangerously unified when pushed. And deeply, irrationally protective. Virex lowered his hand. This is not over, he said quietly. Serelith stepped beside Elias. No, she agreed. It is just beginning. The warship ascended slowly. The buried pillars retracted. The drones lay broken in glowing sand. Silence returned to the Mojave. Elias finally exhaled. Serelith looked at him differently now. Not as a rescuer. Not as a primitive. But as something far more dangerous. An ally. You changed the equation, she said softly. Elias looked at the horizon. Humans are good at that. Far above Earth, the fleet regrouped. They had underestimated one wounded princess. They had underestimated one human scientist. They would not make that mistake again. And next time, it would not be just a desert fighting back. It would be a planet. The alien fleet did not retreat. It repositioned. 3 warships held orbit above Earth now. Not firing. Not fleeing. Watching. The desert was quiet again, but quiet did not mean safe. Inside the damaged research station, Elias stood beside Serelith as sunrise painted the sand gold. You bought me time, she said softly. You bought us honesty, he replied. She looked at him. In my empire, mercy is considered weakness. In ours, Elias said, it's complicated. Above them, Commander Virex addressed the high throne through a secure channel. The humans are not advanced in weapon systems, he reported. But their planetary coordination is abnormal. Define abnormal, the throne replied. They act as one when threatened. Instinctively. Without command hierarchy. There was a pause. That is inefficient. Yes, Virex agreed. And dangerous. On Earth, something else was happening. Elias had not just sent a distress signal. He had triggered curiosity. Scientists across the planet were analyzing alien energy signatures, ship designs, communication bursts. Not military leaders. Not politicians. Researchers. Engineers. Students. A 14-year-old girl in Mumbai began mapping the fleet's energy cycles. A retired radio technician in Argentina detected micro-delays in alien signal relays. A climate researcher in Norway noticed gravitational fluctuations tied to their orbital pattern. Humanity did not mobilize like an army. It mobilized like a mind. Serelith observed the data streaming across Elias' screens. You expose your knowledge openly, she said. Mostly. In my empire, information is controlled. Yeah. Elias smiled faintly. We tried that. Didn't go well. The alien fleet made the next move. Not weapons. Communication. A massive projection formed in Earth's upper atmosphere, visible from every continent. A towering image of Virex. His voice echoed across the planet. People of Earth. You shelter a war criminal. Return her. You will not be harmed. Cities froze. Governments panicked. News networks exploded. Inside the station, Elias stared at the projection. Serelith did not flinch. He frames strength as crime, she said quietly. What did you actually do? Elias asked. I ended a conquest. He looked at her. That's bad. For an empire, she said, yes. Across Earth, debates ignited instantly. Fear spread. Some demanded surrender. Others demanded retaliation. But something unexpected happened. Instead of waiting for leaders to decide, ordinary humans began asking questions. What is her story? What is their empire doing? Why hide weapons beneath our planet? Information spread faster than fear. The narrative shifted. Humanity did not see a war criminal. They saw someone hunted for refusing to destroy others. That mattered. Virex noticed the delay in Earth's response. They hesitate, one officer said. No, Virex replied slowly. They think. On the station's roof, Serelith stood beside Elias as global feeds streamed across his tablet. You inspire them, she said. He shook his head. No. They were already like this. In orbit, the High Throne issued a final directive. Demonstrate dominance. One warship broke formation. It did not aim at a city. It aimed at the moon. A precise energy strike hit the lunar surface. The explosion was controlled but visible from Earth. A warning shot. The message was clear. We can erase you slowly. Elias felt the weight of it. Serelith's fists clenched. They believe fear ensures obedience. What ensures loyalty in your empire? Elias asked. Victory. He looked at her carefully. Then let's show them something they've never seen. He opened another channel. Not emergency. Not military. Global civilian broadcast. Hi, he said simply. His face appeared on screens worldwide. Behind him stood an alien princess. This is going to sound strange, Elias continued. But we are not at war yet. And we don't need to be. Serelith looked at him sharply. What are you doing? Trust me. He faced the camera again. They expect us to panic. To divide. To choose fear. He gestured toward Serelith. She refused to destroy worlds when ordered. That's why they hunt her. He paused. So here's a human idea. In orbit, Virex listened carefully. Elias continued. We don't return her. And we don't attack you. Instead, we offer something you don't understand. He smiled faintly. Cooperation. The alien bridge went silent. Explain, Virex demanded through a direct channel. Elias didn't look afraid. You're powerful. We get it. You can destroy us. Probably easily. He shrugged. But you haven't. Silence. Because conquest costs resources, Elias continued. And we're not worth enough yet. The High Throne analyzed that statement. Accurate. But we are useful, Elias said. You've hidden weapons here for strategic reasons. That means our location matters. He stepped closer to the camera. What if instead of conquering us, you ally with us? Shock rippled through alien command. Serelith stared at him. You offer partnership. Yes. You are weaker. Temporarily. He looked directly into the projection of Virex. You dominate through force. We grow through collaboration. Imagine combining those. The alien officers exchanged uncertain glances. This was not protocol. This was not doctrine. This was new. The High Throne spoke. Why would we trust a species so primitive? Elias answered calmly. Because we just proved we can't be bullied easily. That hung in the silence. Serelith stepped forward now. "My brother," she said, voice amplified across orbit. "You call me criminal. But you hesitate to destroy them." Virex did not answer. "Because you see it," she continued. "They are unpredictable." She looked at Earth below. "And they protect without calculation." The throne processed millions of simulations. Every scenario of forced conquest showed prolonged resistance, unexpected sabotage, planet-wide unity, high cost. But alliance simulations showed exponential growth, unstable, but promising. Elias added one final piece. "You wanted supremacy. What if you chose legacy instead?" That word echoed. Legacy. Not domination. Contribution. Impact. The High Throne paused longer than ever before. Across Earth, billions watched. Across orbit, fleets waited. Finally, Virex spoke. "You gamble boldly, human." Elias nodded. "We're good at that." Another silence. Then the unthinkable happened. The warships powered down primary weapons. Not surrender. Not retreat. But reconsideration. Serelith exhaled slowly. "You shifted them," she whispered. "No," Elias said quietly. "We gave them an option." The projection in the sky changed. No longer a threat. A symbol. Dialogue channel open. Earth was not conquered. It was invited. In the station, Elias finally allowed himself to sit down. His greenhouse was half destroyed. His station damaged. His life permanently changed. Serelith stood beside him. "In my empire," she said softly, "strength was always measured by how much we could take." She looked at him. "You measure it by what you protect." He smiled faintly. "Yeah. We're weird like that." Above Earth, alien ships began transmitting data, not targeting scans, but star maps. Trade routes. Scientific archives. Not as masters. Not as rulers. As cautious partners. The galaxy had expected humanity to resist violently. To crumble. To submit. It had not expected them to negotiate from courage. And that was the moment everything changed. Because once an empire learns that strength can look like kindness, it can never fully return to fear. And somewhere beyond the solar system, other civilizations watched the exchange. They adjusted their calculations. Humans were not the strongest species. Not the fastest. Not the most advanced. But they were something far more dangerous. They were creative. They were united when it mattered. And they protected even strangers as their own. The desert wind moved softly across Mojave sand once more. The research station stood damaged but standing. Beside it stood a human scientist and the deadliest warrior in the galaxy. Not as ruler and subject. Not as weapon and target. But as proof of a simple truth. Never underestimate a species that turns survival into strategy. And kindness into power.